Hey guys, thank you for joining us for this Crossing the Line podcast as we wrap up the Make a Difference personality work. I hope it's been helpful to you. I hope you've been able to practically apply the concepts that we've talked about, the tools that we've given you. That's the reason we're doing this. You remember, if you've joined us for the past several episodes, we began by talking about that much-loved monkey, and you remember that much-loved monkey. If you think about the quadrants, if you think about that vertical and horizontal axis, the much-loved monkey is that extroverted, people-oriented personality who loves to laugh, loves to cut up, loves to have a good time, but needs to be led, validated, if you will, by the approval and affirmation of others. They need those words, they need that look, that appropriate touch. You remember the leading lions kind of in that next quadrant down, and those leading lions are the extroverted, task-oriented personalities, and boy, they have vision. They fly at 30,000 feet. They have the confidence, and they need, though, from a validation standpoint, they need to be empowered. They need to be able to go accomplish the task, and they need to believe that you believe they can go accomplish the task, and great things can happen. You remember, if you slide over in that bottom quadrant, that bottom left-hand quadrant, that's our competent camels, and those are the introverted, task-oriented personalities who like to dot the I, cross the T. They really care way more about how we accomplish the task than if we accomplish it. These are our go-to people, remember, for quality, for excellence. They're going to be rule followers. They're going to be black and white thinkers. That's how they operate. We have to know who they are so we can validate them. Then you remember in that top left-hand quadrant, that introverted, person-oriented personality, our tranquil turtle, incredible wisdom, incredible insight, needs that time though to think and needs that time to process. May not be a verbal processor or communicator, so they need time to think about that. And when you give them that time, boy, great things happen. In fact, that's how they're validated. They're validated by one-on-one interpersonal relationships. When you invest not only in that turtle, but in the relationships that are important to that turtle, and you take the time to do that, and that's our word there, time, it's incredibly beneficial. So our personalities are quite different. All of them are different. And it's really important that we understand how to lead each of these personalities, how to connect with each of these personalities, how to communicate with each of these personalities, how to have conflict in a healthy way with each of these personalities. So I hope you'll become a student of these personalities and you will learn how to connect and how to speak the language of the other person. I remember one time I was talking with an executive. She was an executive of a large Fortune 100 international company. And she and a peer had the responsibility to go to two different plants, two different operations in two different parts of the country to tell them the bad news that they were going to have to shut those plants down, that they were going to be closing at least a large portion of the plant. And I never will forget what happened. Her peer decided the way he would handle it is he sent an email out and said, hey, this is the date. Make sure you people know. If you need anything, let me know. He kind of dropped by and kept on going and really dealt with none of the dirty work. Well, you can imagine what happened. The plant just imploded. It left a scar. It was a bad name for the company. And ultimately he still, I don't even think he's still with the organization. But on the other hand, this other executive, she went to the site. She set up an office in the site. And she listened to every person that wanted to come in that was being affected by this layoff or by this termination, really. And she listened. And she allowed the monkeys to come in and to be emotional. She allowed the lions to roar. She allowed the camels to come in with their logic, black and white, this is not fair mentality. She allowed the turtles to come in and have the time to process how this was going to affect their families. She sat there in very difficult times through every person that wanted to come in. And while it was still hard, it left a very different impression on everybody in that plant and the community. It was still difficult. Now, don't get me wrong, but boy, the way she handled that was so different than her peer. It taught me a valuable lesson of honoring people for who they are. You know, when I think about that, I think about my best friend. His name is Tom. Tom and I have been friends for, I don't know, 30 plus years. Incredible guy. One Sunday afternoon, we were going to go to the movies. Tom went for a walk with his daughter, her adult daughter. He came back to his house, sat down before it was time to go to the movies, and he died of a heart attack, catastrophic heart attack. I think about Tom a lot, and I think about his legacy. Now, I'm from the South, in case you can't tell, and we have this rivalry in the South of the two universities, the two big universities in the South, Auburn and Alabama. And I'm an Auburn guy. Tom was an Alabama guy. He loved Alabama with every fiber in his body. All of his children graduated from Alabama and all of those things. He met his wife in Alabama. I met my wife at Auburn. And Tom, I never will forget, when my children were little, Tom was a little bit older than me, just a few years, but he would say to me, he would say, Larry, if you raise your children and they don't go to Auburn, you have failed them as a parent. He said, if you don't instill in them a love for Auburn, you have failed them as a parent. And we used to laugh about it. He was joking, of course, but what he was doing was speaking my language. Did he love Auburn? No. He loved his school, but he cared enough about me to say, you need to invest your children in the school that you love and your wife love. The legacy is that he lived a legacy of getting to where I am instead of speaking his language. What legacy are you leaving? Are you leaving a legacy that it's all about me and I'm only going to speak the language of my personality and I'm only going to speak in a way that I want to be heard in? Or is it going to be a legacy of I care about others. I care about those who are important to me, and I'm going to speak their language. You see, when we do that, we exemplify servant leadership. And we choose to say, I'm going to start leading by connecting with others based on who they are, speaking their language. When we change our mindset from it being all about us, because leadership is not about you, it's about those you lead. So I challenge you, learn to speak the language of others. Take the time to invest. And when you do that, when you learn to speak the language of those around you, that's when you're going to make a difference in the lives of those you love, live with, and lead.